Let's kick things off with our first major story. UFC legend and former lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov has spoken out about his cousin Umar Nurmagomedov's potential return to the octagon, and the recent call-out from Petr Yan. This matchup has fans buzzing. Khabib's comments only add more fuel to the fire. Khabib addressed the situation during a recent media appearance and made it clear that while he's excited about the idea of a fight between Umar and Petr Yan, he doesn't believe the timeline that's being thrown around is realistic. According to Khabib, Umar will not be ready to compete by July, which is when many fans and insiders were speculating the fight could happen. In his exact words, Umar will only be ready by October. July is not possible. That's a clear message from someone who knows Umar's condition and training status better than anyone. Khabib is closely involved in Umar's career and training camp, so when he says October, we can assume that's the earliest target. But Khabib didn't stop there. He went on to emphasize the importance of this fight, calling it a top-tier and very serious matchup. In his opinion, this is not just another bantamweight bout. This is a fight that could have major implications for the title picture. Khabib believes both fighters are operating at such a high level that a win in this matchup could launch either man directly into title contendership. Let's look at the rankings. Petr Yan is currently sitting at number 2 in the UFC's bantamweight division, while Umar Nurmagomedov has climbed to number 3, despite his recent time off due to injury. Both men are elite-level competitors. Petr Yan is a former champion who has gone toe-to-toe with the best of the best. Umar is extremely dangerous and widely considered one of the top rising stars in the sport. When you put these two together, the stakes couldn't be higher. It's the kind of fight that fans, analysts, and even other fighters want to see. A classic striker versus grappler showdown with championship implications on the line. Khabib made it very clear. This fight makes sense. And while it might not happen in July, if the UFC can lock this in for October, it could end up being one of the biggest bantamweight fights of the year. Stay tuned, because this one is definitely worth watching. Moving on to our second big story, Michael Chandler has finally broken his silence following his TKO loss to Paddy Pimblett, and his response has been nothing short of inspiring. Shortly after the fight, Chandler took to Instagram to share a heartfelt message, reflecting on the experience. The loss was a tough pill to swallow for the former Bellator champion, who was stopped by the rising star Paddy the Baddy Pimblett in one of the most shocking outcomes in recent memory. But instead of making excuses or pointing fingers, Chandler handled it with grace, humility, and raw honesty. In his post, Chandler wrote, "There are really no words to describe the pain and disappointment you feel. You just live in it, let it take its lot, and leave you with what is left. From there, you rebuild." Powerful words from a man who has been through the highs and lows of the fight game. He continued, "The best you can do is move forward with confident expectancy and pride in the attempt. One thing is certain, I can rest knowing that I prepared the best I could, and I alone was responsible for my shortcomings in that octagon. That's accountability at its finest." Chandler praised his team, credited the UFC for giving him the platform, and owned the result like a true warrior. "My team prepared me, the UFC gave me the opportunity. I stepped into the ultimate proving grounds, ready, bested but never beaten, never out of the fight, still in pursuit." Those final lines resonated deeply with fans and fellow fighters. Even in defeat, Chandler made it clear his journey isn't over. Alongside the message, Chandler also shared a powerful photo. Bruised, bloodied, and clearly emotional, he posed next to his wife and children. The caption read, "This picture sums up how I feel and what truly matters. Bruised, bloodied, and heartbroken, yet I still have my soulmate by my side and 3 little hands to hold. The future is still bright. Walk on, see you at the top." It was a classy response. Raw, real, and respectful. Michael Chandler has always been known for his warrior spirit and professionalism, and this post only reinforced that image. Despite the setback, he's already looking ahead, focused on what comes next, and still chasing greatness. Chandler may have lost the battle, but he hasn't lost the war. Moving on to more news, Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson has weighed in on Alexander Volkanovski's historic win, becoming a UFC World Champion at over 35 years old. The MMA legend offered his thoughts on Volkanovski's accomplishment, while also sharing a powerful reminder about his own legacy, a legacy that in his eyes often goes underappreciated due to the UFC's dominant spotlight. Volkanovski recently became the first fighter over the age of 35 to win a UFC world title in the lighter weight classes, specifically the 125 to 155 pound divisions. It's an incredible feat, considering the youth, speed, and intensity these divisions demand. Fighters in these weight classes typically peak in their 20s or early 30s. So for Volkanovski to pull it off at 35 plus is a testament to his elite conditioning, mental toughness, and championship mindset. But Demetrious Johnson quickly pointed out that he did something very similar, just not in the UFC. In a recent interview, Johnson said, "I did it in one championship at 36 years old. I knocked out Adriano Moraes with a flying knee to reclaim the one flyweight title. People forget that, and he's not wrong. Fans often overlook major milestones that happen outside the UFC's promotional bubble." He continued, "Alexander Volkanovski is the first over 35 fighter to become champion in the 125 to 155 LB divisions in the UFC. That's the difference. It's not frustrating, but it just shows how big the UFC is. Nobody recognizes any other organization." That's a revealing statement from a man widely considered one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters in MMA history. Despite his achievements, multiple title defenses in the UFC, and continued success overseas, Johnson acknowledges that the UFC's global presence often overshadows the accomplishments of champions elsewhere. Still, he gave Volkanovski full credit, but it's still a big feat. Being over 35, I think I've done it. I defended the belt at 37. It's absolutely amazing. It's rare to see fighters excel in the lighter weight classes into their mid to late 30s. The fact that both Johnson and Volkanovski have done it in two of the world's most competitive organizations speaks volumes about their skill, discipline, and longevity in a sport that often favors youth. In the end, whether it's in the UFC or one championship, greatness transcends platforms. And both Volkanovski and Demetrious Johnson have proven that age is just a number when you're operating on a legendary level. Next, we go to another major headline in the MMA world. Islam Makhachev's coach, the legendary Javier Mendez, has made a bold statement that's turning heads across the combat sports community. Mendez now believes that Paddy Pimblett deserves the next title shot. Yes, you heard that right. The same coach who once doubted Paddy's championship potential is now one of his biggest supporters. Mendez initially wasn't convinced by Paddy's rise through the lightweight ranks, especially after that controversial decision victory over Jared Gordon, a fight that many fans and analysts scored in Gordon's favor. Back then, Mendez was one of many who questioned whether Paddy was truly ready for elite level competition, but everything changed after Paddy's dominant TKO win over Michael Chandler. That performance, which silenced critics and shocked the MMA world, was enough to completely flip Javier Mendez's perspective. In a recent interview, Mendez opened up saying, "Do I think Paddy deserves a title shot? Is he ready to face someone like Islam? Paddy is ready to face anybody. What he's done already, his credentials, his winning record in the UFC, his hype, and his ability to motivate people. It all speaks for itself." He added, "If they give him the next shot, then yes, he deserves it. They gave it to him. So whoever they give him, they give. Let's see who steps in the arena next." Mendez didn't stop there. He praised not only Paddy's recent performance, but also his growing global presence. Is he worthy? Yes. Is he interesting? Absolutely. He's got the whole of England behind him, and now a lot of America will be behind him too. He has a lot of fans. And then came the most surprising part of all. I'm a fan now. I wasn't in the beginning, especially after the Jared Gordon fight, but now I'm a huge fan. For Mendez, a coach who's trained champions like Khabib Nurmagomedov and Islam Makhachev, to say he's now a huge fan of Paddy Pimblett is no small endorsement. It speaks volumes about how impressive Paddy's latest win truly was. While the lightweight division remains stacked with talent, the buzz surrounding Paddy is impossible to ignore. Love him or hate him, he's become one of the most talked about names in MMA. And now, even Islam's camp is giving him serious respect. Moving on to another story, Tom Aspinall is opening up about his ongoing frustration with not being able to stay as active as he would like in the UFC. In a recent TikTok Q&A session, the interim heavyweight champion got candid with fans about the struggles he's been facing behind the scenes. And one of the biggest issues, long gaps between fights. Aspinall last stepped into the octagon last summer, where he delivered a sensational first-round knockout against Curtis Blades, a performance that solidified his position as one of the most dangerous heavyweights on the planet and earned him his interim title defense. But since then, he's been caught in limbo, waiting on the highly anticipated showdown with Jon Jones, a matchup fans have been craving, but one that still hasn't materialized. When asked about the biggest challenge he's faced as a fighter, Aspinall said, "There's nothing too major to complain about, apart from the knee injury, but honestly, I think that was a blessing in disguise. I learned so much from that injury." And learn he did. Since making his return from that devastating knee setback, Aspinall has gone on a tear, winning 3 fights in a row, all by first-round knockouts. Still, the long periods of inactivity have clearly been taking a toll. What about securing fights? That's definitely tough, he continued. The timing between fights is not something I enjoy. I want to be more active, but I guess that's just how it works at the top. I've never been in this spot before. It's a sentiment many top contenders can relate to. Once you're in title contention, the matchups become fewer, the stakes become higher, and the wait becomes longer. Aspinall was also asked if he ever deals with UFC Fight Week nerves, and his response was refreshingly honest. I'm always nervous. It's not natural to fly out somewhere, put on gloves, take your shirt off, and fight someone you've never met before in front of millions. It's scary stuff, but I do it every single time. That kind of humility and self-awareness is part of what makes Tom Aspinall so relatable to fans. He's not just a killer in the cage. He's a thoughtful, grounded fighter who's navigating the pressures of the spotlight with honesty and strength. Now, fans everywhere are just hoping to see him back in action soon. Let's move on to another big story. Ilia Topuria fires back at Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib recently stated that Arman Tsarukyan would be a more difficult matchup for Islam Makhachev and argued that Topuria doesn't deserve a title shot without first fighting a contender. Khabib said, "My personal opinion, not necessarily more dangerous, but let's say more competitive. I think it's Tsarukyan. He's a more serious fighter than Topuria. Topuria is good at 145, but we haven't seen him at 155. I believe Arman is more competitive for Islam than Topuria. I don't know what kind of agreements the UFC has with Topuria, but from Islam's side, he already gave 2 title shots to 145 LB champs. Both times Islam won. Now a third time? Let's say Topuria moves up and gets a title shot. Islam beats him. Then what? Topuria fights again, loses again. Basically, Islam beats a nobody at 155. For Islam's legacy and resume, that's not great." Khabib continued, "I understand the risks Islam takes. That's why Islam says, let him fight, become a real contender. Islam will fight anyone. He'll be 34 soon. He doesn't want short notice guys like Volkanovski or someone like Moicano. He wants guys who have been at 155 for a long time and really deserve it." Topuria responded to Khabib via X and said, "Khabib knows I'm the one to take the belt from Islam. That's the only reason he doesn't want Islam to fight me." Strong words from Topuria. And finally, Volkanovski reveals he might have retired if he lost at UFC 314. In a raw and honest interview, he was asked whether retirement ever crossed his mind before the fight. He responded, "I didn't have that in my head going in, but if I had lost, especially by knockout, I think I would have started having those conversations. No matter how good your camp is, it's different once you're inside that cage. People are trying to take your head off." He continued, "Everyone talks about losing confidence after a KO, about the mental battles that come with that, and I tried to brush it off. I told people, nah, that's not me, but you don't really know until you're in there. It's a thing, but every time you push through it, you get stronger." Volkanovski concluded, "I'm glad I took on the challenges. I was successful, and I'm going to continue doing that. No regrets." And finally, Alexander Volkanovski reveals that he might have actually considered retirement if things had gone differently at UFC 314. During a recent interview, Volk was asked a tough question. Was there any part of him, leading up to the fight, that thought about retirement if he ended up losing, especially if it had been a bad loss? He responded, "I mean, I was just going to wait. Like, I didn't have that in my head at all. But I mean, you know, if that was you, and if I was to get a knockout loss again, I'm sure you're having them conversations, right?" Even though Volkanovski said he had a great camp, he admitted that things change once you're actually inside the octagon. No matter how good camp went, it's different in there. You know that, he said. Like, you're not out there playing tag. You're trying to take each other's heads off. He continued, "Everyone's going to ask about the confidence. People always talk about how, after getting knocked out, you lose confidence, how it affects the mental battles you're going to face in the cage, but you won't know until you're in there. And that stuff, it's real." He admitted that people were warning him about it in the lead up. "After my loss, people were trying to tell me that, and I was like, what are you talking about? That doesn't apply to me. But I didn't know until I got back in there." Volkanovski went on to explain how real the doubts can become, and how important it is to push through. It's a thing, you know what I mean? But at the same time, every time you get through it, every time you face those challenges head on, you just come out stronger. He ended the conversation on a powerful note. I'm glad I took on the challenge. I'm glad I was successful, and I'm going to continue to do that. Alexander Volkanovski may have had retirement looming in the distance if UFC 314 had gone the other way. But with that win and the mental strength it took to overcome the setbacks, he's not just back, he's stronger than ever. And make no mistake, he's here to stay.